Welcome, welcome to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi, hi. Hi, how is everyone doing? Hopefully well. Hopefully better than I'm doing. This has been a bit of a rough week. It all started when I tried winning an auction that didn't go my way, and I didn't get much sleep. I had to wake up early, and I woke up way earlier than I was supposed to. Couldn't get back to sleep. Stayed awake. Didn't win the auction. Had a rough stream. Haven't known what to stream this week because I don't really want to start something new because just haven't been feeling it. And I'm highly considering going back to YouTube for streaming. It just makes sense, methinks, in the way that I stream, where I'm not utilizing all of the overlays and meme random whateverness of Twitch. So since I am just streaming my straight gameplay with commentary when it calls for it or when people chime up in chat, it makes sense, and I don't feel as obligated when it comes to YouTube to stay to a strict schedule in terms of starting at this exact same time, always having the stream end at the exact same time, and so on and so forth. So with those things out of the way, ideally, YouTube just makes more sense. And if that does end up being the case, the game I'll be starting that off with would be Grounded. But right now I've just been streaming randomness the whole time. And ever since that auction thing, though, my sleep has been effed up. It didn't help that we had daylight savings. Is that what this is now? Are we in daylight savings or are we in not daylight? I don't know. We pushed the hour forward for most of us in the country. Get rid of this stupid shit already. But I am exhausted. And I'm feeling a little sickly, and I think it is just general exhaustion. I think it's just exhaustion. So I'm thinking about not streaming for the rest of the week. I only have 2 days left in my streaming schedule and trying to catch up on sleep. Of course, those who know me know it's hard for me to go off of script. So whether or not I'm able to do that, I don't know. But I'm going to try because I am just dying right now. I feel like I've died. Especially today, I feel exhausted and short of breath all the time. I'm recording this early in the morning, Thursday. Gotta get this done so I can go up. I was thinking about waiting until the Rainbow Six X, I believe is the title of it, the stream about the changes coming to Rainbow Six Siege. But I feel like the announcements and reveals will be underwhelming because that's just what I've come to expect from Ubisoft these days. It's underwhelming. So I said none of that. And that's pretty much it news-wise in terms of anything that stood out to me. So, and that's old news. It'll be new news later today, but currently it's older news. So that just leaves what I've been playing. And what I've been playing, got a stacked list this week, including Sorry We're Closed, RoboDunk, Unsolved Case, the Scarlet Hyacinth, Hyacinth, Pocket Puzzle, Crime Opera Fandisk, the Caterpillar Candids, and Crime Opera 2, the Floodgate Effect, and then Police Shootout. So, Sorry We're Closed is an interesting kind of hybrid of first person. Well, is it? No, that's third person. I think there were some little first person bits in. No, first person in the well, when you're shooting. That's not important. But it is this kind of hybrid of small little world exploration, not really exploring, but you go around this small little slice of where you live, your apartment building, and then a few shops, and the locals you know. You interact with them. You get a bit of your story in that world and the story of those around there. And it's all very hipstery-y, very younger skewing, youth skewing, and youth in the sense of people in their 20s. I assume the way they are. Keep in mind, people in their 20s, I could be the father of. I mean, not in their late 20s. Yeah, not in their late 20s, but I could have a 21-year-old kid or slightly older, which is fucking ridiculous to think about. It's ridiculous to think I could have a kid who can legally drink. But that's where we're at. But you have all that, and then there is this other side where you start having these nightmares, and then there's this other dreamlike world, and it feels like eventually it's going to start blending and melding between the two. But I played the first few hours of it, and in that other world, where you're introduced to it by one friend who is actually, I guess, some kind of demon or something. When you see him near the otherworldly entrance, he no longer, I think it was no longer has pants on and has a tail. I'm like, fucking put some goddamn pants on. So many people like taking their shirts off or taking their pants on. Put your clothes on, people. But when you go into that world, it feels very much so like a classic survival horror game, a la the early Resident Evils or other similar games from that era. And visually, it reminds me a lot of a Dreamcast-like game. But with my 2 hours, I enjoyed being in the survival horror world and exploring that. But I didn't really care about the real world stuff and all the characters you talk to. You do a lot of talking, a lot of reading. So there's a lot of that, a lot of story there. And none of the characters really grab me in any way. And some just straight up annoyed me. And I think it's because they fall into that kind of hipstery vibe. And I'm just like, I'm too old for this shit. I think my friend Enchi would love this game. Sorry, Enchi, if you take offense to that, but you know you'd like it. It's the same thing with I Saw the TV Glow, where I look at that and I think, man, me 20 years ago, my favorite movie ever. Me now, get this shit out of my fucking face. I can appreciate it and see the qualities in it, but it's no longer something that I can really relate to on a personal level, and it doesn't do anything for me. But the survival horror stuff is cool. You are exploring it very much so like a Resident Evil thing, where you're going around these small class, fixed camera, monsters around the area, doors that are locked that you have to figure out how to get through, puzzles where you have to go find something and then use it with something else. Very straightforward. But the part of it that's interesting is that combat, first you only have a melee weapon, but you quickly get a gun. And the way combat works is that you can just straight up shoot enemies when you aim and it goes into first person. You can just shoot them and use however many bullets it takes to take them down. But a way to deal with them faster is to... oh, God almighty. A way to deal with them faster is to turn on this... I forget the term for it, but it's this kind of spiritual mode where you're able to switch or just create an aura around you that allows you to see the regular world because you're exploring the subway, or when you're not using that, you're in the spiritual demon world, kind of like a Silent Hill thing where you turn it on, you have this aura around you that allows you to navigate the space in the real world, which can let you get through gaps that are maybe blocked by a bunch of thorns in the demon world. But what this also does is when enemies are coming at you, if they are in that aura space, they are susceptible to critical hits, essentially. In that you can only, so when you're not in that mode, you can shoot an enemy at any part of their body and they'll take damage from it. They won't take as much damage as the other thing, but they'll take damage from anywhere. But when you're in that alternate mode, then you'll see their heart. And when you shoot their heart, they take a significant amount of damage and freeze for maybe a second or a fraction of a second. And depending on how powerful the enemy is, they'll have multiple hearts so that when you shoot one, the next one will pop up and you'll have that moment where they're frozen to aim and hit the other heart, and so on and so forth until you hit all the hearts, and that'll be an instant kill. It's a pretty simple mechanic, but I'd be lying if it didn't become more and more satisfying the more I played. Even though it was just the same thing, it was really fun to do that. And it didn't take long for the game to just give me a shitload of ammo to do it with. So I never felt like I had to worry about ammo management, even when I would be dealing with 5 enemies in a room. And also with that aura, if you activate it when an enemy is up close to you and they're in the aura space where the aura reaches out to, you'll stun them too as well, which is nice. But I enjoyed exploring that part of the world. But after I did the first night and it gave me my score, 5 stars, shows you all the little collectibles you can find in there and how well you did. It sends you back to the real world, and then you do more talking and get the chunk of the narrative there, a good chunk of the narrative there. Again, I think it might start blending them. I would assume that would start happening. But once that happened, I was like, oh, this sucks. I'd rather just stay in this other world for the rest of the game because I don't like being in this talky real world. But that's there, and that is kind of the main thing holding the game back for me, is that I don't want to deal with that. And I may be able to just skip that essentially by avoiding the characters, but maybe I have to do some of the side activities in order to progress. I'll see, but my current first impression of it is that I like the survival horror stuff, don't like the narrative, I don't know what you'd call it, just talky talk stuff. The narrative talky talk stuff. But that is Sorry We're Closed. Next is RoboDunk, which is a basketball robot game where you play on a team of 2 robots, and it kind of feels like NBA Jam arch rivalry, where the only way to score is via dunking. All of the robot models have their pros and cons, so they might be faster or stronger than others, have better hops, and they come with unique attacks. So some might have a laser beam they shoot out, or a multi-shot bomb shot, or lay mines, and so on and so forth. And you're just trying to outscore your opponent. When you are going in for a dunk, you can charge it, and there are 4 levels of charge. And the longer you charge it for, the more bombastic and cool and flamboyant your dunk will be. And you'll also get those points. So either it goes from 1 to 4 points. So you charge it for 1 space, for one charge, you get 1 point. 2 charges, 2 points, so on and so forth. It was okay. You can also push enemies like NBA Jam, or more like arch rivals, because there are no penalties in the game, no fouls in the game, so you just punch the robots and get the ball back. And it was okay, but I didn't think the gameplay was that satisfying, and the whole mechanic of charging dunks, it just felt like taking more of a risk to get more points, but I didn't get the sense that by charging it up, it made the dunk more likely to happen, because you can get your dunk blocked. But I had some fully charged dunks that were blocked as well, and it just didn't know or seem like it was worth the risk. Really, I kept doing it because the AI seemed dumb enough for the most part, so I didn't really care. But I didn't see what the benefit of it was other than performing a more flashy dunk, which is fine, but why take the risk if you know you're guaranteed to score another dunk because you'll be charging up, and it might take so long that the enemy opponents are able to get there. And if you waited or you didn't wait and just did a level 2 dunk, you score 2 points for sure and not have to worry about potentially getting pushed or getting attacked with a projectile or something like that. But it was fine. It visually reminded me of early, like 90s-ish PC games. Kind of liked it in a nostalgic way, but it was just fine. Then there's Unsolved Case, the Scarlet, Hyacinth. This is one of those hidden object point-and-click adventure style games that I want to like more than I actually do, because I do like hidden object games. But one, the story and all of that in this, the voice work and the movement of the characters when they're doing their talking feels very AI made. I don't know if they are AI generated, but they sure feel like it. But then the actual puzzles, you're trying to solve this death that I think with the first case it was a suicide, but it has a lot of puzzles that just, in a very classic point-and-click adventure, obtuse, dumb way, don't make a lot of sense. So for example, I'll give you a few. There is this wheelbarrow that's missing a wheel, and in order to move it out of the way, you have to find a wheel so that you can move it and get whatever is underneath. Why you can't just reach under it? Who fucking knows? I don't know. I can't remember what was underneath it. But the solution to that is eventually at some point you'll find a pot somewhere in the flower shop or maybe in the upper room. But whatever, doesn't matter. You find this pot and then you put the pot where the slot for the wheel is on the wheelbarrow, and then you'll roll the wheelbarrow back, because what could be a better solution or alternative to a wheel than a fucking flower pot? Makes a whole lot of sense. There's something stuck in a crevice, so you take this sticky lollipop you got, which was new. I guess you licked it yourself, and then you're able to pull this thing out of a crevice with your sticky lollipop. Okay, sure, fine. I guess that makes sense too. Bruh. And stuff like that. It just has a lot of puzzles that don't exactly make a whole lot of sense. And that pot one too, especially, I was like, what the fuck? I use the hint system. I appreciate this about these games, these unsolved case games, that they do have a very generous, relatively helpful hint system, and also include full walkthroughs in their games. But I only figured out the pot one because I was like, you're telling me that the thing I have to do next is in this area. What? How? What do I do? And I just I think I randomly selected the pot and then the wheelbarrow, and it worked. And I was like, fucking, are you kidding me? So I got through that first few cases. I got through the flower shop area, and I was like, fucking, I can't take any more of this. This is just, I had to utilize the guide a few times. I'm like, no, I'm good. That is Unsolved Cases, Scarlet, Hyacinth. Next is Pocket Puzzle, which is a surprisingly fun little challenging puzzle game where you're creating conveyor belts and orientating them the position they're moving in to put together basically these like Game Boys. And first you just have 2 pieces, but then you quickly get 3 pieces, so you'll have the base, then the circuit board, I guess, and then the top. And you have to do them in order. And it quickly gets more complicated with the routes you have to take so that you get them there in the right order, and then adds switches and multiple switches that will do different things, whether they activate certain conveyor belts or change the position of conveyor belts and so on. And played through the first 15 or so levels and was surprised by how quickly it ramped up in difficulty in a pleasurable way. I thought it was surprisingly good, and if you like puzzle games, worth giving it a shot. Then we have, and that was again Pocket Puzzle. Then we have Crime Opera Fandisk, the Caterpillar Candids, and Crime Opera 2, the Floodgate Effect. So Crime Opera Fandisk is this collection of shorter stories that is kind of a bridge between the first game, which I think was subtitled The Butterfly Effect, and the second game. It has stories that take place before, during, and after the first game, I think is what they said. And it's okay, but it really does feel like a bunch of I don't want to say discarded stories, but stories that were left the cutting room floor stories is what I was looking for. Stories that were not quote unquote good enough to make it into the main game. And you should definitely play. It even recommends playing the first game, which I've not done. I may have played it when it came out and just it's been so long that I don't remember it. But having that fresh in your mind would be beneficial for this. And the second game does have a prologue, but it's really short and it doesn't really do that great of a job. I mean, you can't expect much from what was, I don't know, 5-10 minutes max of a recap over a visual novel's case. And these are visual novels. I don't think I said that. But I would say that anyone who liked the first game, you'll probably enjoy these because it's continuing that. And I'm sure that if you were a fan of the first game, you're already interested in these. You don't need someone to tell you whether or not they're worth checking out. I want to talk about them for a different reason. I think if any genre of game should have, by default, accessibility options for reading, both in terms of dyslexia friendly font, being able to adjust font size, being able to put a background on the font of varying opacity, change the font style, so on and so forth. It is the visual novel genre, because in the Fandisk game, there are, in one of the stories, plenty of instances where you have white text that has a slight outline, but it's over essentially a white background. And it makes it really, really hard to read. And then in the second one, Crime Opera 2, you have this orangish reddish font color with a slightly darker shade of that as an outline that is really hard to read and unpleasant to read. The font size is on the smaller size as well. And it just makes the whole experience frustrating, especially when the whole experience is reading. These are visual novels. So when the gameplay is just reading, you can have some choices here and there in Crime Opera 2, but they don't really matter, and you're going to end up with the same outcome. So it's just whether or not you want that faux feeling of being involved or not. But it needs this genre just in general. It just needs to have those options, because without them, people suffering from different types of reading disabilities are going to have issues to varying extents. So there's that. And then in both cases, especially in Fandisk, which I understand because Fandisk is only a $3 little side thing, a lot of the visuals feel very cheap. The framing of scenes is weird, where a character will be basically on the edge of the screen, facing the border of your display, almost like they're going to kiss the border of your TV. And there's no one else on the screen, so they're just, it feels like they're talking to somebody off screen, and you're like, why aren't they in the middle of the screen or larger? Why are they such a small figure all the way on one end of the screen? It feels so weird. Then some of the quality of the art in Fandisk is of a lesser quality again, because I feel like it's a bunch of stuff from the cutting room floor that they just put together and said, hey, here's a little bonus for you super fans of this series. And then in both cases, there are instances where you just get a black screen. You don't even get any kind of background, and then the text just scrolls over it. And those can happen. Those can happen frequently, and also put on a lot of text there, where you get multiple lines that are a lot. It feels kind of cheap in that sense. But that's really what I wanted to talk about regarding that, is just the requirement, I think, for these games to have more accessibility options in terms of reading, because they are reading games. And if any game should have more options there, it's one of these. That is again Crime Opera Fandisk, the Caterpillar Candids, and Crime Opera 2, the Floodgate Effect. Last, we have Police Shootout, which is a peculiar, janky, little weird game with pretty awful voice acting, dumb story, dumb scenarios, and surprising gameplay in the sense that it is turn-based. So you will go on these calls where maybe there's a bit of a kerfuffle in the parking lot of a supermarket. This is the first mission, the first job. And you're dealing with this when you hear shots fired from the grocery store. And so you go in there. There are plenty of things for you to do that you should do in order to call in the crime, give them constant updates, potentially get it back up, so on. But when you engage with a criminal, it enters this turn-based mode, which is really, really weird and feels weird, is janky. When you enter into shooting, it is this RNG. You aim it, and then there's a bar moving, and you want to fire again when it's the little crosshair type ball thing is in the place where you want to fire. You can, of course, go for headshots and kill an opponent, or you can try and wound them and then go up to them to arrest them. And there'll be hostages that you have to deal with that you don't want collateral damage, and so on. I think conceptually it's something that could be interesting, but the fact that it's weird to just even have the guise of a regular crime when it's clearly going to divulge into some kind of shootout thing when the game is called Police Shootout. So it does limit really where the story, the campaign can go. But I think there's something here that could be interesting with the turn-based nature of encounters and so on. But this is just one of those typical janky games a la a simulator. They might as well just call this Police Shootout Simulator. But I think adding simulator to the title would make it sound really icky. And just having Police Shootout, you're like, okay, whatever, fine. But if you said simulator, it'd be like, ugh. And it would raise some eyebrows, I would imagine. But yes, it's the kind of game I played a bit of it, streamed it, and I said there what I'm going to say now, which is It's the kind of game you don't want to play yourself because it's not fun to play, but it is a lot of fun to watch someone else play, which makes it the perfect stream because it's unpleasant to play from just a sheer gameplay standpoint. And it's incredibly stupid. So, what better than to watch someone else play it and get the good without the bad, quote unquote good. But that is again, play Shootout. And that will do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. You all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, the occasional watch party, a private Discord channel along with some fancy Discord roles, and the random drop on the Patreon here or there depending on your tier. Or you could just support me to support me if that is your fancy. Again, that is patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, the Twitch, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. That is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day and lovely rest of your week and a wonderful weekend as well. I'm going to try and get some sleep. All right? Hope, fingers crossed for that. Hope. But for now, adios. Arrivederci. Bye.
It's go time, go daddy.